Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this essay as you would a radio broadcast. Now in this essay, I'd like to talk about radicalization and the extent to which the NGO network around the Western world, funded by USAID and Soros and, Act Blue and all this sort of stuff, how this has been very generously funded, whether it's, propaganda movies pumped out by Disney or, TV program, literature, education in schools, the editorials you see in the media and the talk shows, at all levels, politicians, public servants. The radicalization process is vast. It's deep and wide and vast. Now, just recently I realized, there was a bunch of public servants that were at a lunch that we were at, and I realised that every single one of them, they were probably maybe mid-50s was the oldest there, I think, and they all had been involved with, worked alongside with various NGOs. And when we look at the list of NGOs that are funded by USAID, pretty much every USAID NGO, funded NGO, Soros-funded NGO is involved here. But what's interesting is that every one of these people, a journalist, an educator, a college policy maker, making policy at universities, this is in Australia, high school, senior high school administrator, public servant, a few public servants, all of them had been radicalized by NGOs and had extensive involvement with NGOs. When I go back to the days of, and I'm only like a half or a quarter of a generation behind some of these people, so I was surprised how NGOs backfilled what would have been the normal, school holiday, part-time, high school kid, college kid type job. Now, again, I'm not a million years old, but it was quite common, certainly when I was a kid, the NGOs didn't exist then. So, and if you wanted to work for a charity, you were committed to doing charitable work. You wouldn't get paid, or the pay was so bad that you would take any job rather than do that, unless maybe you were financially independent and you wanted to specifically do charitable work. So back in the day when I was around, you'd get a job at any local business. It could be, like a lawn mowing guy or a landscaping business, a local grocery store, takeout food store like a McDonald's, those sorts of things. Well, that's where as a college kid or a high school kid, you got a summer holidays job. I got jobs at a grocery store and worked for a landscape gardener and worked for a warehouse and distribution outfit and unloading trucks and shit like that. So I did all that sort of stuff at the and that was how it was back then. But talking to all these people at the at this lunch or ad, and as I think back others that I've also met, they've all been radical. They've all, instead of doing those jobs, going to work at McDonald's or something, instead of doing those jobs, they've gone to work for NGOs, and they've been radicalized. Their placard wavers, their street protest marches. None of it's grassroots. It's all organized and orchestrated and choreographed and so on. But they've got to get these radicalized kids in. They've got to tell them the most terrible lies, and they've got these theatrics that they go through. One lady was telling me how the first time she went to one of these NGO meetings, and a lady who came from somewhere, some brown or black country, was telling about the racial oppression and so on, and then she cries in the middle of it, and other people come in to console her, but she keeps going because she's stunning and brave, and all the girls in there, they particularly pick girls, all the girls in the audience, they cry as well, and everyone's crying together. And so this woman who'd now be, I don't know, pushing 50, she's telling me how that turned her into an activist, because she realised, the evilness and wickedness of white people in the world, the oppression, the colonial slavery, and and she realised, only then did she realise the huge evil of it. And I said to her, how do you know any of that was true and was accurate? Was it factually true? Oh, but and then she didn't seem to know what to say to that. She said, well, the woman was crying. I mean, she was crying. She was weeping bitter tears, and everyone had to console. It must be true because she was crying. And look at the emotionalness of it. Get on board with the emotion. Are you not on board with the emotion, you fucking Nazi? So these people have been, and they not only do they go for girls, but they particularly pick, the lesbian girl who comes from single mother family, this type of thing. So they purposefully pick, girls that could be easily converted to the cause, but men too, gay men and men who've had health problems, maybe been bullied as a kid or something, skinny, scrawny guys that got bullied when they're at school. They pick their targets, and they look for people that are going to be susceptible to the message of slavery, oppression, evilness, white supremacy, Nazis, everybody's Hitler, and so they concoct this fantastic delusional world of oppression and so on, and radicalize these people into it. Now, what sort of intrigues me is, out of all the judges I know quite a few, out of all the judges I know, all of them believe they were bullied as children. All of them believe they were bullied as children, and that part of their role as judge is to seek revenge. They can sit up there, as a judge, and they can order you to prison. They can order the police to arrest you. They can detain you. They can, if they don't like your attitude, they can hold you in contempt. So judges have vast power, and if you're wealthy, you can fight back, through appeal courts and so on. But if you're not, you're screwed. And I try and point out to people that are going to court, if for whatever the reason, that you need to just understand this. You're standing in front of someone who just has to go a little squiggle of the pen. That's all they have to do, a little squiggle of the pen on a bit of paper, and you're in prison. That's how easily they can do this, and you need to be cognizant of that when you're when you're interacting with a judicial officer. Now they all have, certainly the ones I've met, they all have a terrible chip on their shoulder about this the oppression they've suffered, and the bullying that they suffered, and the amount of prosecutors and lawyers in that flock to these areas of gender power relations and gay lesbian power relationships, and this sort of social power and all this sort of stuff. They're all people that believe, the amount of lawyers involved in the rape who believe they were raped. The women were raped. Now, why you would allow such activists in the area, I mean, I wouldn't if I was running that. That's the thing. Activists will be not allowed anywhere near it, but the place is jam-packed with activists. And when you look at what sort of work did you do, when you were in high school, did you get a job at the local shop or something? And all of them have been working in NGOs, particularly the younger ones, say 40 and under. None of them have done any work outside of NGOs. And what was that work? Posting social media messages about the oppression, and Nazis were everywhere, placard waving, drawing up placards, thinking up slogans, hey, hey, ho, ho, and, Nazis have to go, and, all this sort of thing. And that was the work. So they've undergone and been exposed to nothing but social justice, leftist, all white men, straight white men and Nazis. That's all they've been subject to. They've been subject to this radicalization from day one. They've never had a real fucking job. But because the funds flowing into these NGOs have been so vast, they've been able to bring on masses of people on the payroll. And even if they're not on the payroll, they're given all sorts of free stuff. Like, they're made to feel part of a community. They're given a free mobile phone. They're given free food and water. They're given, their transport costs are met, so they can pretend that they're doing something worthwhile. we're fighting back against Nazis, we're fighting fascists, and this sort of thing. And it keeps these people in an infantile state. And I'll do another video on the infantile stuff, but even at 40, 50, 60 years old, even, they talk like children. Their rationale is that of children. So you're looking again, and I've mentioned this previously, but the talking points that a green or blue haired college kid will say will be word for word the exact talking points uttered by a 50-year-old public servant. They're uttering the same talking points. Neither has a comprehension or wants to come to grips with the facts. And if you try and point out a fact, well, that can't be right. That's impossible because, those events were 100 years apart. And they're stunned. They look at you sort of blankly. Oh, well, so you're Hitler, are you? You're a Hitler lover, are you? No, wait. Those events can't be true. They're 100 years apart. Oh, well, so it doesn't matter, really. So just because you're a Nazi doesn't matter. Oh, fuck. So this is the level of, because the radicalization involves suspension of all acceptance of facts. Facts no longer matter. It's the vibe and the emotion of it all that is the issue here. So this is an interesting thing. Everyone you meet, every journalist you meet has been radicalized through the NGO. Every public servant radicalized through NGOs. Every school teacher, every college lecturer, every administrator, every policymaker radicalized through NGOs from a young age. So this idea of people having real jobs and learning life skills and responsibilities, and so on, that's all gone. That's disappeared. They live in this fantasy world, this NGO fantasy world, which again, through USAID and George Soros and so on, has been lavishly funded and allowed to engage in this radicalization for 25 years or longer. You've been at TASIS today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.